Welcome back to my kitchen. Today's adventure is a gluten-free apple crunch pie. Something I've noticed over the years are friends who have food sensitivities and allergies are hesitant to share those with just the general public. So often at gatherings, they suffer silently, not being able to eat most of what is provided. And even when pressed, I have found people hesitant to share with me personally what foods they need to avoid because they don't want to make things difficult for me. But what I have found is if I can press and help them understand that I truly desire to meet their needs because I love them, and then if they will divulge those things that we need to avoid the next time they come into our home and can enjoy a meal that is free of their allergens, it is a way of being seen and feeling loved in a very practical way. So this recipe I developed for a dear friend who I didn't want to feel marginalized when everyone else was enjoying delicious baked goods that were filled with gluten. I started dabbling with different techniques and different recipes to be able to meet their preferences while still avoiding those things that they needed to avoid. So what we're going to be doing today is using a pre-made frozen pie crust. You can go to many specialty or regular supermarkets and look for a ready-to-bake pie shell that is gluten-free. Watch for other allergens, so read labels. If you have someone that's extremely sensitive, then you need to be extra careful, especially extra careful with cross-contamination in your own kitchen, where you're going to have normal ingredients that are fine for your family, but may be a real risk for them. So just be really careful about how you approach making something for someone, and make sure that you communicate with them and have them communicate with you how serious their sensitivities are. But for the general gluten-free recipe that we're going to be doing today, that's the only thing that we're going to be looking to avoid, as well as any added dairy. So you can, if there's a dairy concern as well, this pie crust has some dairy. So all you would need to adjust if you're doing this recipe and you need to avoid all dairy as well, then you would need to make your own crust from scratch perhaps, or find one that does not have dairy included. To start with, we're going to use a tool that I have had for 32 years. This is an apple peeler, corer, and slicer all in one. And I love using this tool for a number of applications. You can make apple pancakes. This makes a beautiful thin slice of apple that's peeled and cored that you can put in when you pour your pancake batter out on the griddle. Drop a little apple ring, and as it cooks, and then you flip it, it'll be a beautiful piece of apple inside your pancakes. Kids absolutely love to eat apple slinkies, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. So this is a tool that doesn't just have one application. There are a lot of uses for it, but if you're making pies, apple pies, it is, to me, essential, because I don't prefer to peel things by hand and take all that time if I can have something that helps me do it a lot faster. So we're gonna just take our apple, okay, so we have our beautifully sliced and peeled and cored apple. You do have a little bit of peel to deal with on the top and the bottom. Sometimes if your apple has a little divot in it, there will be some remaining. So you do just have to take a paring knife and hit it along the top here to remove. No big deal, just a quick can always just take that top guy off if you don't want to have to peel it, and you can eat it, because of course I washed my apples before I use them. All right, so I mentioned an apple slinky. This is what I mean by an apple slinky. It broke. Hand this to a little kid on a plate, and I promise you they're going to eat the entire apple. So we have this beautiful apple. We're going to slice and core and peel several. We will be needing 4 cups of small diced apples, and I will show you how to do that really quickly here in a moment. Okay. Pop the top of that guy off. Hit it with our paring knife. Occasionally the core of the apple is not exactly straight through the center. So you may have to, as you clean up your apple, getting it ready for the filling, you may have to slice it and take out that little center section and cut down this way just to take out the core. This core was not anywhere near the center of that apple, so that's not a problem. We just slice it. And once I cut the entire stack, I have all these lovely small pieces of apple. So that's how we're going to get our 4 cups of thinly sliced, diced apples. So we'll just take our little stack, slice down, probably about 8 times. And now we have all that lovely thin sliced that's going to cook up beautifully. You won't have any crunchy bits and soft bits because they're all the same size. Uniformity is important when you're baking so that all of your ingredients cook properly at the same time. Here we have 4 cups of our apples that we prepared, and we are now going to add 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Now, I don't know if you realize, but brown sugar and regular sugar need to be measured in different ways. So when you take brown sugar, put your measuring cup in the bag, pack it using your hand. You can use the outside of the bag as a, keep from getting your hand in the sugar. So just press it until you have lightly packed it in there. Now you know you have the exact measurement of brown sugar that is called for in your recipe. All recipes assume a lightly packed brown sugar as opposed to just a scooped out and leveled off. That's not going to give you the amount of sugar that is the recipe is anticipating. When you're measuring granulated sugar, however, of course it's a scoop and a level off, and then you have the correct measurement. So just a little tip on brown sugar measuring. So we're going to add to our bowl 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, which is going to help thicken once the juices of the apples get going. And we are going to also add a pinch of salt, and that would be held in the hollow. If you make a hollow in your hand, you would fill that, and that would be a pinch. So we have a pinch of salt going into the bowl. Going to give this a light mix, and then we're going to put it in the microwave for 2 minutes. We're going to get these apples softening, get their juices going a little bit, which will aid in the uniform baking of our pie and the thickening that we want to take place so that it's not watery or runny at the end. Okay, so we're going to put this in the microwave for 2 minutes, and we're going to turn our attention to the crunch topping. As you will see, I have a small blender here, and in it I have placed a 1/2 cup of whole rolled oats, and a half cup of pecans. So we're going to blitz them in the blender until they are a fine powder. Okay, we've accomplished that. Now we're going to set them aside, and to a mixing bowl we're going to add another half cup whole rolled oats and a half cup of pecans, but these are whole, like pecan halves, so I need to chop them using my handy quick food chopper. And I don't want them to be pulverized like we just did in the blender, so that's when I pull out my food chopper. I think it really does the best in that intermediary chopping. You don't want it completely dead, but you don't want it in its whole form either. Okay. So we have a very nice, lightly chopped pecans. No whole entire halves. Might have a couple that you need to break apart with your fingers because they were sideways, but that'll be fine. That'll just be a little extra crunch for somebody. And we have a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And remember, we never measure our salt over the vessel that we're putting our food in, right? So we have, woo, see, that's why, because I overshot. So there we are. And another half cup of cinnamon, half teaspoon, not a half cup. And a 1/4 cup of melted coconut oil. So I already melted a 1/2 cup because I'm actually making 2 of these pies today, but we'll do one at a time. And I have a lovely little liquid measure cup, as remember we talked about before. If you're measuring liquids in a dry measure cup, to get it from point A to point B without spilling it, nearly impossible. So here we have a 1/4 cup of melted coconut oil, and we add our finely chopped pecans and oats to this as well. Get that out of the corners. Just going to mix this all up until we get that nice crumbly apple crisp looking topping. It smells so delightful. It's just Thanksgiving and Christmas in a bowl. You get all these wonderful things together and it's warm and welcoming. So we're mixing all of those things together. We have a nice combined crunch topping. And here are our 4 cups of microwaved apples. Give them a good stir, make sure all of the flavors are well combined. Now we're going to take 1/3 cup of our crumble mixture and add it to our apples. I forgot the brown sugar in the topping. Hold that. I think it's all in how you recover. So I was able to scoop the topping back out of our bowl. It hadn't been mixed together yet, and mixed in the 1/3 cup of brown sugar that should have been in here the first time. So we're gonna take and get a 1/3 cup measure of the properly mixed topping and put that in. Now we're going to mix it into the apples. I'm sure I'm the only one that leaves out an ingredient occasionally. No, happens all the time. It's just in how you recover. Okay, So we're gonna set this aside. Take our crust package and handy dandy kitchen shears. This particular brand of crust I really appreciate comes with a Ziploc closure. I'm not going to use that today, however, because I'm using both crusts. So we're not going to worry about that. So here's our lovely crust. It's been sitting, thawing just a little bit since we've been working on our pie. And we're going to take the apples, dump them directly into the beautiful crust. It's quite lovely. Smells awesome already. It's kind of a dreary day outside, and this is making me feel warm and happy. So with Thanksgiving coming up, I wanted to give you this recipe to think about, maybe taking it to your family gathering and showing the person in your family that can't have gluten how much you love them. I have found that just thinking about this particular struggle that people have helps them feel included and not like they're yearning for, oh man, I would love to have some of this dessert, but if I do, I'm gonna feel terrible. So this is gonna be delicious. Everyone's going to enjoy it, but that person that cannot have gluten will be exceptionally thankful. So here we have the rest of our crumb topping. We're just going to carefully put it on top of our apple filling, and I'm going to use all of it. So once I get it in, I will gently press it down so that it covers all the way to the crust. You don't need to press too hard, but press it so that it's even and slightly, you know, if you press it, it kind of joins together. So do that, and it'll make a lovely crunch top to your pie and be even and brown and beautiful when it comes out of the oven. So that is our apple crunch pie going in the oven. We'll see you in about 40 to 55 minutes, and we'll take a look then. It's time to take our pie out of the oven. This beautiful golden brown, lightly crunchy on top. The juices inside are slightly bubbling. As they cool, they're going to thicken even further. This is going to make you very proud to take to your family on Thanksgiving. And those who have to avoid gluten will be very thankful that you brought it. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.